Hey guys, welcome to Marriage for the Purpose of Eternity. So, my message today is sharing my testimony of how I met my soon to be husband. It's quite an amazing story. His journey has many ups and downs, which will unfold as I share more about myself and what the Lord has really taught me. So, as I mentioned before, coming to Jesus, I gave my life to him in 2015, and I was so on fire for him. He fulfilled every desire, every longing, every heartache, every loneliness that I had. Jesus fulfilled. He became my everything. And I really thought I was called to singleness because I really desired to be a missionary. And I thought to myself, Lord, this is wonderful. This is amazing. Like, I've always desired this intimate relationship with you, and I have you, and I'm good. But the Lord knew the motive of why I said that. The truth is, guys, I was terrified of marriage. I had been in a slew of past relationships that didn't end well at all. And my last relationship before me coming to the Lord was my first time in adult life that I was truly in love with someone. And I thought that we were going to get married. But yet he broke my heart in such a tremendous way, which of course helped me and pushed me closer to God to give my whole life to him. So at this point, I wanted nothing to do with that. And my parents had a wonderful, beautiful marriage for 15 years. And then towards the end, it got really, really difficult. My parents divorced or separated, and that just tore me up inside. And there was a mistrust between them, and it got me to the point where I'm like, oh, I don't want to go through that pain, and I don't want that to happen to me. I just didn't want that. And me and Jesus had such a good relationship. I had a peace I could not explain, a joy that was overwhelming. Why do I need a man to make all that difficult? Ladies, you understand. Fellas, you understand, right? Ain't nobody got time for all that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I'm sorry, Lord. Okay. But the Lord was not trying to listen to any of that. So it was in 2016 that I was walking at my job out in the park, and I remember seeing a butterfly before me. And he began to speak to my heart. He'd always speak to me in butterflies. I knew that his presence was around. And at that time, the Lord had spoken that the rapture was about to happen. So I was prepared. Marriage was in my mind. I was ready to go home, guys. And I remember a message came in from Mother Claire's still small voice. And she mentioned that the Lord had delayed again the rapture. And I was like, no, Lord. At that point, I had cut myself off and really trimmed down my life just to work and to prayer. And I felt, man, what's the point of life? I want to go home, Lord. And that's when he spoke to me and said, but I have a gift for you. I have a promise for you, marriage. And I thought, what? Me, marriage? I come from a family of 7 guys, and I have one older brother and 5 other sisters. I'm the oldest out of 6 girls. And so the truth is, deep down in my heart, growing up, I wanted that. But it got to a point where I was okay. I was so content with Jesus, especially now coming to walk with him so intimately. And when he spoke to me about marriage, I was dumbfounded, excited, fearful, and scared all at the same time, concerning this promise of marriage. And I was thinking, who, Lord, when, and how? And he just said, trust me. So at that point, my walk with the Lord began. As I told you guys in the previous message, he began to confirm through people all around me concerning this promise of marriage. So 2017, I remember it was Valentine's Day. And guys, I was having a rough day. Jesus is so sweet and so tender, so patient. And I remember I was even angry at him. Oh my gosh, the way the Lord is so patient with me. And I just remember being in the mirror and being frustrated, wanting so bad to hear his voice, connect with him. And I remember I heard a voice in my heart say, by this time next year, you'll be married or meet your husband. And that's what I felt I heard. And I remember, wait a minute, is that thought from my heart or just my mind? And as I walked down the steps of my apartment complex, I remember, guys, it was a rose. I'd had a Date Night with Jesus event for some of my small group members, and it was beautiful the night before. So we had a Valentine's Day worship night for Jesus, and I gave each person a rose, but I didn't get a rose that night because we didn't have enough. And at the bottom of my staircase, and I lived on the 3rd floor, was a rose. When I picked it up to go to my car, I heard Jesus say, Happy Valentine's Day. And my heart melted. I was like, he is so sweet and kind. Just right a few minutes before, here I was just barraging him with all these thoughts and doubts and worries and concerns. And he gave me such peace, and he just loved me so well. So, fast forwarding now to 2017, as I mentioned before in the previous message, my cousin reached out to me and said, hey, I want you to be a bridesmaid at my wedding. I was super excited, guys, and I was also content where I was at. And the reason I was so excited is because, guys, in our family line, that's one big stronghold is marriages. And I'll get into that messages. We have a lot of witchcraft curses in our families that many of us don't get married. And if we do get married, it gets broken up. So this is a third generation. And this third generation, we have about 12 to 15 girls. And none of us have gone married besides this particular cousin or sister. So it's the second marriage now in our family. And I've been praying and praying now into marriages, praying into my marriage and praying for my family, my sister's marriage. So to see her finally get married and this breakthrough happen, I was so excited. And I remember at that time, my mom said, don't worry, I'll purchase the ticket. I wasn't working at the time. I was just sitting at the Lord's feet and doing a lot of ministry work. So I remember the day before I leave, I pull a Rhema card. And the Rhema card says, it's time for you to be blessed. Your husband is on the way. And that was a word that was given to me the year before by a lady in our church. And I thought, I didn't even register with me concerning Ghana. I just thought, okay, Lord, that's kind of weird, really? So, of course, me going to Ghana, guys and ladies, I was prayed up. I already know how my heart is. And if you guys don't know how African men are, they can be enticing. So I said, Lord, please help me to guard my heart. Help me not to fall from it, like really guard my heart. My mind hasn't been focused on men or guys for the longest because I just really been at the Lord's feet and just focused on him and ministry. And so I knew going there, I just wanted to have my heart guarded. So I went to my cousin's wedding, and for Ghanaians or Africans, West Africans, we have two weddings. We have a traditional wedding and we have a white wedding. So she had two weddings. So the first wedding, I got dressed. We had a traditional wedding, and I remember I met somebody there, was a photographer at a wedding who showed interest in me. And he was cute, guys. I was thinking like, Lord, could this be, He was really, showing me attention, but I just kind of brushed it off. And I told my cousin about this guy, and she was like, no, like, please leave him alone. Like, there's someone out there better for you. And I said, okay. So I just left it alone. I didn't really accept advances, but the truth is, I like the attention. It's been a long time since I've been out. So that following evening, we had the wedding rehearsal. And the wedding rehearsal, we were paired up then with the groomsmen. We had to do a dance for our entrance. So I was paired up with my cousin's husband's cousin. And he was really handsome. He looked just like my cousin's husband, who's very handsome as well. As we were preparing to make our dance routine, I could tell, too, that he showed interest in me. But I didn't think anything of it. As we were rehearsing our dance, I heard a voice in the background speaking, and it was two groomsmen talking to one another. One of the groomsmen told the other groomsmen, man, there's this song that I love. Man, when I listen to this song, man, he said chale, which is a Ghanaian slang. He said, man, it makes me want to cry. He's speaking in pidgin. And so I remember thinking to myself, okay, worship song. And he said the name of the song was Hillsong, What a Beautiful Name. Guys, that was my song for that year. I love that song. So it registered to me, first off, what African men do I know worships and cries? And secondly, loves Hillsong, beautiful name? So it made me turn my whole head, guys, to who this guy was. When I turned around, I saw that it was Derek. And that is the name of my soon-to-be husband. And at this point, he kept going on and on about how the worship music stirs his heart. And I immediately advanced toward him and I said, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, I love that song. He said, you love it too? So we began talking about the songs of worship that you love. Because if anyone knows me, I'm a worshiper. I love worshiping and singing to the Lord. And so at this point, we're going back and forth. And he told me, hey, there's a church down the street here in Ghana. That's kind of American-style church. And they do worship just like Hillsong. Would you like to go? And I was like, yes, I would love to go. So we exchanged contacts, and at that point, he kept mentioning that his leg was hurting really, really bad. And so I asked him, can I pray for his leg? So I prayed for his leg, and that was it. And afterwards, coming back home, I didn't think anything of it. I got home, and I was prepared for the next day for the actual wedding. And the actual wedding came about, and when we were going to the table to sit down, I noticed that Derek rushed to my side before my partner could sit next to me, and told my partner to sit somewhere else. So he sat next to me, guys, and the whole time during the wedding, we're glued not on each other, but on God. We kept talking and talking. He shared with me his testimony and how he was touched by God by the age of 8 years old through Benny Hinn, and how he struggled with backsliding, coming to God and being passionate. And right now, he had backslidden, but he was so hungry to know the Lord more. And if I be honest, ladies, I hadn't met a guy in a long time who actually really listened to me, really truly listened to me. And the Lord was really teaching me about intimacy at that time. And many of my brothers in Christ who were with me, back home in Texas, they weren't really trying to hear that. They want to walk in the power and miracles of God. So when I talk about intimacy and knowing Jesus' heart and dancing with him, they're like, you're weird. And so to meet Derek, and we're talking about these things so intently, and he's just eating everything up and saying, man, I want this intimacy. And so I remember even my cousin's sister, who was a bridesmaid, her husband was there at the table. And he was staring at us. He said, what are you guys talking about? You guys have been engaged for like hours. Like, it's as if nobody here matters. And I said, Jesus, of course. And at that time, my whole family knew I'd become what you call that Jesus freak. I'd become a radical change because I was so radical on fire for the world before. I would love to be in clubs and dancing. And after this 2 years of walking the Lord, they were so amazed at how I was so on fire for Jesus. So me and Derek continued to talk that whole night. And even that night, we had our first dance together. And I was so nervous, ladies, so nervous. Like, I hadn't really even touched a man like that in a long time to dance. So I was so nervous dancing. And afterwards, I just felt this connection I could not explain. Like, what is it I'm feeling? Lord, please help me. Please help me. I don't want to feel these things. And this connection was so strong, the electricity between us. And it wasn't anything sexual, guys. It was so pure. Like, I couldn't even explain what was going on, but just the desire to just want to talk about God and to meet somebody who just had this deep connection and desire for that. It was quite amazing. So I kept casting from my mind, and I remember that night I told the girls, the bridesmaids, about date night with Jesus. And I said, hey, I want us to do that together as the bridesmaids in the hotel we're at. All the bridesmaids agreed with me before the wedding. Towards the end of the wedding, there's only 5 of us. All 4 of them went home. So I was left alone. I was left alone in the hotel, and I thought to myself, okay, all right, Lord, it's just going to be me and you then. We're going to have a date now with Jesus. So as I entered the hotel and was dropped off, I saw my cousin, who was just now married with her husband, and guess who was next to them? Derek. And I was thinking, like, what is he doing here? And as we were walking, they were just saying that, Derek, his house is really, really far, so he's going to stay the night here with them. And I thought to myself, man, it's their wedding night. And my cousin had waited 4 years, really abstained, been chaste with her husband for their union. So I thought that was a little bit odd, but I said, okay. But I remember seeing Derek, my heart skipped a beat, guys. I was like, oh my gosh, he's here. I've been thinking about him all night, even after we left the wedding. So I just remember thinking, okay, cast your thoughts, keep your mind on Jesus, keep your mind on Jesus. And so as we entered into the elevator, I remember Derek had asked me, how old I was, and I told him my age. And I remember when I got off my floor, there's something in me that longed to want to spend more time to talk with him. So I turned back and looked at him, but I just kept walking, like, keep your mind on Jesus, keep your mind on Jesus. So I walked into my hotel room, guys, opened it, come to find out that they gave me the honeymoon suite. I had my cousin's honeymoon suite. I brought my rose petals for my date night with Jesus, right, and my stuff, and it already had rose petals all over the bed and heart-shaped and candles, and it had the bath water ready, and I was just like, oh man, I kind of chuckled a little bit because I think God has a funny sense of humor, and I thought to myself, Lord, is this you wanting me to stay here to really use this and make this available for our date night, or should I call my cousin and tell him to switch rooms? Because I felt kind of bad. They spent a lot of money, and this was their wedding night. So I told myself, okay, let me make an effort at least to tell them and see if we could exchange rooms. So I go down to the concierge. This is a beautiful hotel, one of the most beautiful hotels in Ghana. And I go down to the concierge, and before I'm walking to the concierge, this is how the enemy works, ladies. I hear a beautiful, swooning voice singing in the lobby of this hotel. A male voice at that. So something then lures me to go into the dining area, and before I know it, I see this young man singing, and another young man actually calling me to come to him. And he's very attractive, ladies, very attractive. So I kind of reason with myself what to do, and keeps telling me to come, and he walks closer to me and asks me to come sit down with him. So I end up, entreating his request, and I sit down. And of course, I'm mesmerized, ladies, because he was just handsome. And not only that, but he had a British accent. I'm sorry, Lord. So anyways, so we continue on, and he begins talking to me, and come to find out that he's a manager of this person singing. He manages different artists, different hotels, and he gets to know me and tells me, how he's attracted to me and wants to know more about me. And he sees my ring, and I have my purity ring on, which shows how I'm consecrated to Jesus. I remember he asked me, am I married? And I said, yes, I'm married to Jesus. And of course, and his response is, that's weird. And immediately I was like, say not today. So I snapped out immediately of my trance, ladies, and I was like, I got to go. So I leave him. I'm like, okay, I'm on a mission. Let me try to find my cousin's room so we could switch, so I could do this date night with Jesus. Let me be with Jesus. I need to be with Jesus. The concierge has so much difficulty in finding my cousin's room. They can't find it. And so I got to a point after about 10 minutes, I was just going to give up. But then I ended up just asking the lady one more time, can you just try? So she calls again, and she finds my cousin's room. So when she hands me the phone, guess who's on the line? Derek. He picks up the phone. I was like, what are you doing there? He said, oh, your cousin and her husband are here. They're sleeping. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I have their room. I didn't know if they wanted to switch. But I reasoned with myself, it hits me. Oh my gosh, if I switch, that means I'm going to be in the same room with Derek. No, this can happen. Before I could say anything, I immediately blurt out, okay, if we switch, you're sleeping on the floor and I'm sleeping on the bed. Derek, of course, laughs and says, chill, there's 2 beds here. And I was like, oh, okay, Lord, I'm sorry. So then I tell him the situation. He said, don't worry, I'm going to wake them up. We'll switch right away. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so nervous. I get off the phone. I'm like, Lord, what have I done? What am I doing? What are you doing, Lord? What's going on? Why this? My anxious heart starts beating and pattering, and with excitement, but also fear at the same time as to what God is doing. So when I end up headed to her hotel room, I was nervous, guys. I was prayed up, nervous, praying continuously, asking Lord to please God in my heart. I knew nothing would physically happen because He really gave me grace and self-control. My connection with Derek was nothing physical. It was such a spiritual connection that I cannot explain. I've never experienced with anyone. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I just want to keep my mind and my heart fixed on Jesus in all purity, right? And not think of any guys. And I'm like, who's this man that has bulldozed his way into my heart? Who is he? So when I get into the room, I end up going to the bathroom. I just take this longest shower ever because I'm hoping that he just fall asleep. When I enter the room, seems like if he was tossing and shuffling a little bit. As, guys, I'm in the bathroom taking a shower, praying and praying and praying, I hear a video playing, a YouTube video playing, in a still small voice from the Claire's messages concerning intimacy with God. And I was like, oh my gosh, he listened to me. I can't believe he listened to me. Nobody ever listens to me. So for him to listen to the message, still small voice, I was just so amazed. And so when I came out in the hotel room, I remember entering to the bedroom, and I looked at him, and I was like, wow, I'm just amazed that he was listening to the messages from Jesus. So I sat on the bed across from him, and he looked at me and stopped the video at the end and said, wow, I get it now. It's all about intimacy. Guys, he gets on his knees, ladies. Gets on his knees, and he looks at me with tears in his eyes. He said, I want to experience God like you experience God. Will you pray for me? The first thought on my mind, ladies, is, who is this man? What man humbles himself to do this? I was blown away by his humility, by his sincerity. So I began to pray for him. Guys, he bawls and he starts crying and crying and crying. And I'm so moved by that. And after we get done praying, I was going to go to sleep, but I asked him, wait a minute. You know, actually, I planned to do a date night with Jesus tonight with the bridesmaids. They're not available. I want to do it alone, but would you actually do it with me? He said, sure. So I explained to him what date night was. I put rose petals on my bed. We sat Indian style from each other. We put our phones on, and we played worship music playlist. Guys, the night was amazing. The presence of God was so strong. For me, the Lord reveals His presence through heat in my body, in my hands. The Lord has shown me the clay that if there's when heat comes in our hands, a lot of times it's a manifestation of His presence. And then Derek began to hurt. I didn't realize that he had gotten in a car accident a few weeks ago, and that's why his leg was hurting when I prayed for him, and his back as well. So I laid my hands on his back, and I began to pray, intercede for him for healing, and immediately his whole body got on fire. He began to cry and thank the Lord for healing, and he was completely healed. That changed our night. The presence of God was so strong in that room. Both of us began to cry out, praying for the salvation of souls, praying for the nation of Ghana, that we wanted Ghana to know God, that if He would give us Ghana, that the Lord would save souls, that the Lord would touch our family's heart. We're interceding. We literally were next to each other on the bed, holding hands, crying, kneeling and crying. And I remember thinking, Lord, this is everything I've ever wanted. Who is this man? Who is this man? I was just blown away. I never experienced anything like it. And when we both got done that night, it was wee into the hours of the night. We're both drunk in the Spirit, truly drunk in the Spirit. Derek ended up plopped next to me on my bed. And of course, I came to my senses thinking, As I looked at him and said, you got to move. But then before I did that, I immediately heard the Holy Spirit tell me, lay your hands on his heart and pray for him. So I laid my hands on his heart and I prayed for him. And afterwards, he moved and got on his bed. And we woke up the next morning.